Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. There's some probably more people coming in, so I'll let them in as they come in. So today we've got Jamie here, Jamie Marshall from a company called Everon. I've known Jamie for about a couple of years now. I've been a client of mine, and he's an expert in everything IT, which I think is always something that businesses need a lot of and a lot of help with, but because of lockdown and COVID and everything, I think the IT needs have become even, more sort of demanding really and more acute, certainly for my business anyway, with my whole team working from home. So I asked Jamie to put together a presentation, Ultimate Guide to IT, to basically give some hints and tips out. And we're going to record this as well. So if you want a recording, we're going to send this recording out to all clients as well. So just a bit of housekeeping just before we kick off. Essentially, yeah, I think everyone's done it as well, but if you keep your audio off and your video off, that would probably be better, just so it gives Jamie a clear run at it without sort of interruptions. But at the end of Jamie's presentations, about 30 minutes, I am going to lead in some Q&A. So if people want to ask questions, then obviously bring your video back on, your audio back on, and we'll go for questions there. So Jamie, thanks so much for coming, and let's kick off.
Perfect. I'll just start by sharing my screen. As Russell mentioned, we've worked together for a couple of years now, a client of his, and we're a managed IT provider. I've put together this presentation that should hopefully help people with some insight into the sort of systems that are available nowadays, the best ways to link them together, some of the risks and pains you might be having might be identified within this, and hopefully you'll learn about how we can streamline and improve things going forwards. So firstly, I'm one of the directors here at Everon. As I just mentioned, we're an IT provider in Leeds. We were founded in 2008, so we've been doing this quite a while now, and we work with B2B, so just businesses, and help them with their IT sort of everyday needs. We have a range of different clients, but we specifically target regulated industry, so people like Russell or the legal sector and things like that, generally because they have a more strict governing body that it makes them have to adopt new technology and secure it, and kind of all the elements in IT they're forced into change quicker than other industries. But we do work with other clients, and we try and ensure that we help companies by taking away the pains in their day-to-day IT. So rather than just fix things as they break, we proactively go out and improve the technology in their business, and then we help drive efficiencies through some of the topics I'm going to talk about in a short while, through like automation or integration and simplifying networks. So not only do we keep systems running, but we also then go on to help generate a better ROI on some of your technology spend or your IT spend to help you get more done in less time, essentially. So I start off by just going through a few of the issues that companies, or we find users generally face. Some of these you might experience yourself, or there might be a few that you experience. So generally we have a lot of issues where companies' IT systems are either working as expected or they're too slow. Obviously this can happen over time with technologies. Sort of 3 years is a good lifespan for a computer nowadays. So technology is so quick that you can experience problems with stuff going out of date quite quickly. Staff having issues with systems or problems that basically stop them working and generating money for the business. You guys, directors and business owners, might struggle with time, and you're always giving out time, but you're never getting any time back to do any of the things that actually matter to you and your role in the company. Again, you don't have the knowledge needed. IT, like Russell mentioned, is quite an intricate sector, and there's a lot of change that's constantly happening, and it can be hard to keep up. You don't understand the current systems you've got and maybe some of the risks that you're exposed to. Again, with regulated industry, they have a lot of scrutiny on security, and there's a lot of fines that are handed out to companies that have breaches and hacked data. That's the next point, essentially, that cybercrime is one of the biggest threats to companies at the moment. The stat, I think, at the minute is 59% of SME businesses are attacked every year. So that means if you haven't experienced a cyber attack on your company this year, statistically, you'll have one next year. So it's something to be aware of. And you don't know how to improve your systems or your productivity using technology. And then also you find it hard to keep up with new systems, new technology, and ensure your staff are motivated and trained. So these are a lot of the common problems that we have. As I say, the biggest threat to a business nowadays is cyber attacks and cyber threats. So it's something that people really do need to adopt new technologies and ensure they're aware of the risks and the problems that can be associated with this. So how can you resolve these issues is the next sort of slide. This new technology, new systems, new security that's constantly coming out, and you need to make sure that you're constantly using the best fit systems for yourself, and you're making use of the technology and the features that are coming up. They come up. You can use a lot of automation and AI to boost productivity, to resolve human error, to secure things. People don't quite realize how sophisticated some of the modern day systems are and how easy to access some things like automation and AI are now. People tend to think that it's quite still far out of reach, but the reality is with Microsoft 365 and some of the other systems, it's available to everybody nowadays. They're just not aware of it. Ensure that your systems and your data are more secure than ever. And then as that cyber threat increases, that you're taking the necessary steps. With remote working, there's been a big jump in cyber attacks because as people are now working away from the office, where the systems are generally more vulnerable, we're starting to see more attacks and more people being broken into. You want to be able to proactively resolve IT issues before they cost you time, essentially, and help keep your business in effectively and efficiently, and ensure you're actually earning money rather than constantly just firefighting and daily problems. So the aim of the presentation today is going to help you show how you can boost your workforce efficiency, how you can save money, and how you can have a simple and scalable IT solution that's hopefully going to be frustration-free. A lot of the technology we use and a lot of the core services we use with clients is based around Microsoft 365 suite. It essentially brings like enterprise level software to the masses. So something that would have cost a lot of money a few years ago to have to go out and have a service to deal with Exchange and all these other features, you now get bundled into a Microsoft 365 package, and it can cost as little as sort of £5-6 a user up to £15 a user per month for the full suite. So if there's one area that you should really probably look at investing in, if you don't already, Microsoft 365 is probably a really good one to look at. And we'll talk about probably some of the features of that a little bit later. Essentially, I've broken this presentation down into 5 simple steps that you can sort of use to identify issues, develop a strategy, and then implement into your business. The review process is all about understanding how you currently work, not just from an IT perspective, but the actual day-to-day processes that you yourself might have or staff might have, and help identify areas where you can streamline those and get time back. The strategy is about developing a plan to then resolve the issues you've identified in the first step. Simplifying, we find that people are quite easy to bring things in and adopt new technologies or just download an app. I mean, how many people's phones have just tons of apps that they no longer use because at the time you put it on, you never go back and take it off, or you never integrate it properly. So simplifying and integrating apps and software suites is a big area for gains for a lot of companies. And then finally, once you've done that and you have a simple system, you want to be looking at automation, and this is where you want to look at all the AI and the automation tools that are available within the suites that you've already got, or suites you can go out and buy or rent, that are going to help drive efficiencies and give you time back while getting more done and sort of more work done and less hassle, essentially. So review, as I kind of alluded to, it's really important to understand the critical business applications and processes. So that isn't just the actual software that you use, but it's the process you run through. So if you have a new client, for example, what's the onboarding of that new client? How do you take that initial lead and then turn them into a paying customer? What systems are used throughout that process? So you want to review and really understand these. It's important to gain feedback and insight from all stakeholders. So just because it's something that you might not invest a lot of time in, you might have staff within your business that do. And this might be something where we've had this before with clients where they've had certain members of staff that just do admin tasks, and we can replace those with automation, and there's staff that are just constantly doing menial tasks can be redeployed to somewhere else in the business to help actually generate profit. Understand how your systems are configured and where your data is actually stored. So again, you might be constantly adding apps and solutions into your business, but if you're constantly storing data in different systems and either duplicating it or storing it offsite, you need to be sure that that system's secure and is going to protect you. You're not going to be liable for any GDPR breaches or data breaches, because the fines that we're starting to see are handed out to companies when this sort of thing happens and the data is leaked on the internet can run into sort of thousands of pounds. So not knowing about them isn't an excuse to avoid the fines. You really need to understand if it's your data, where it is and how it's being used. Costs, again, this kind of links back into the previous point. It's easy, especially with modern day sort of subscriptions, to just be constantly taking on costs, adding new subscriptions in, and not really sure of what benefit they're giving you. And your monthly spend's going up and up all the time, but do you actually need all the costs and all the licenses? So that's a good area to look at. And links into that. We want to, your general aim when we're looking at your current system is to be looking at areas of waste and ensuring that if we are going to move to a new system or we're going to simplify a system, we know what systems can be combined, what systems can be made redundant. So that leads us on to the next step, which is to create a strategy. We want to take everything we've learned in that first step, that review, all that apps, all the software. We want to literally cut everything that doesn't need to be there. So we can literally remove problems, complexity, and wasted spend in one swoop by just removing everything that's unneeded. Things that maybe you have processes for. So when you looked and reviewed the kind of areas that time was getting wasted, that process of onboarding that new client and all the time that went into it, we need to understand what's repetitive, what we can remove, what we can have a computer do, or what we can have software for. We want to look to create a system that, instead of giving us complex technology to manage and continual problems, we want to have something that's simple, no waste, it's stable because we haven't got a large suite of different apps and softwares all trying to mix together. We've just got a core suite. We want to ensure we can then secure it because we're not looking at a whole spectrum of programs. We're literally just focusing energy on a tight-knit group, and then that's going to make the whole system efficient. Any change we make, so anything we outline in a strategy to move from an old system to a new system, should give one of those 4 benefits: increased stability, increased simplicity, enhanced security, or more efficiency. So we're saving time, or we're getting more work through in less time. So simplifying, probably the first place to start is from your review. We should be able to create a list of approved software. So anything that's not on this list should not be in use throughout your business. So that review where we looked at all the processes, we spoke to staff, and we understood all the pains in day-to-day use, we should then be able to create a list of approved software, and each one of those softwares, we should be able to understand its benefit to the company. If it doesn't have a benefit, then it probably shouldn't be on that approved list. We want to make sure that once we've got that list, all the problems are resolved that we identified in that first step. So if we've still got problems and we haven't got a solution for it, we need to go out and find the software and the system to resolve it. And then we want to make sure that all the software that we're going to use is properly secured, backed up, and correctly configured before we roll this out. Traditionally, staff, and especially when you're in a larger organization, people are more resistant to change. They're not as adopting of change. So if we start deploying an app or we make a change to the way we're going to work and we roll that out to an office and it's got loads of problems in it, it's already a hard enough task to get people to buy into that change. Sometimes that starting with problems is going to put you on the wrong foot. So really make sure that you've nailed down any issues that are going to be in this new suite of software. You know how it works before you start deploying it to staff. And then this probably links into the next point, which is all well and good having this system, simplifying it and pushing out all this software for staff to use, but they're going to have to live with it on a day-to-day basis. They're going to have to use it 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. You need them to buy into the reasons for using it. So again, going back to those 4 benefits right at the start, when we're deploying change or we're deploying new software to offices and staff, we need to really spend time educating people on the benefit to them. So that might be a slightly different benefit to you as the business owner or the company, but it should give that staff member a benefit as well. So the time one works for both parties. So if you're saving time, you know, that staff member, you can say, look, we're going to adopt this software. It's going to save you half an hour a day, or it's going to save you an hour a day, or whatever it might be. And that helps get them to buy in. With any change, as I say, you're always going to have to really get people to buy into it because generally people don't embrace change well. So it's really important that we educate people as much as possible. And once we've done that, we should basically have a standardized system that runs throughout the business. So whether you're staff member A and you work from home or you're staff member X and you work in the office, you should have exactly the same standard system. We should be using the same softwares. We should be sharing the data in the same systems, and we shouldn't have completely different ways of working. We should have a uniform and a standard that the company can work to as a group. And that's going to bring more benefits in helping resolve issues if there are any, and also be more productive, a set way working for everyone. So when it comes to integration, because we've now got a standard that we're working to as a group and as an office or a business, we can look at areas where we can start to really bring benefits to companies and bring benefits to either bring more time, more productivity. Like you can obviously, if it's, for example, like fee earners in a legal practice, the more time we save them, the more billable time they have, so the more profit they're generating for that company. So we want to really look at areas where we can take different software suites and use software to join them together to remove human repetitive tasks or human error. So there's tools out there that are freely available, like Zapier. Zapier is a system that works with tons and tons of different software suites, and essentially you can create a start point and an end point, and Zapier will help manage tasks in between. So if you had a system like we have a CRM system that we manage contacts in, and that links with our marketing system for emails. So what we have is Zapier will go through the list in the CRM system. As a new contact is added, it will automatically take that contact and it will put them into our marketing system. But then it can also do more advanced tasks. So we have one that would take that contact, put into the marketing system, but then also emails a local supplier we use that sends out cupcakes. So when we onboard a new client and they go into our CRM system, they automatically get sent a box of muffins with our logo on, because Zapier takes the contact from one system, puts it into the second, and then also sends off the order to the local company for them to send through the muffins. That was something that used to be manually handled and took 10, 20 minutes a client is now completely streamlined. We just pay the invoice and it all happens automatically. Any integration you bring needs to, again, fit one of those benefits. So we should be looking at reducing duplicate data or time to improve efficiencies. So again, there's tons and tons of different actions that you can use, tools like Zapier, or even Microsoft 365 has a lot of these built in. There's a tool called Power Automate now. It used to be called Microsoft Flow. It's free within the Microsoft 365 platform, and it can even do basic tasks such as if you had an Excel document and it had information in it that you want to move to a different, like a Microsoft Forms, for example. So someone could fill in a form on your website. Microsoft Power Automate can automatically take that form data and put it into an Excel spreadsheet, or it could put it into one of your other systems. So you want to look at areas where you're constantly removing data duplication or time duplication. That's going to generate efficiencies for you. The other big area that, or big win you can have with integration is security. There's more and more strict password requirements for every different app and solution that you use nowadays. And it's hard to keep track of all the different passwords you might be having or using. So you could use a password manager for that. But you could also look to integrate the apps and make use of a single point of security. So for example, Microsoft have something called single sign-on. So the process you go through to log into Microsoft 365 is one of the most secure processes that you can go through. They have whole systems and teams dedicated to keeping these areas secure. So by taking another app and embedding it within Microsoft 365, you can then sign into that app through Microsoft 365. So you're increasing the security of that second or third party app by making it go through the strict protocols that Microsoft are setting for security and sign on. We find that there's tons and tons of apps now that actually integrate with Microsoft. So if you can't find kind of your app or your solution separately, you could speak to us, we can help you out with that, or you could look at other tools to do it. But 99% of apps now will work to a point through single sign-on. If they don't, systems should have like multi-factor authentication and other enhanced securities that you can be using, but you might have to then just use a single app on a phone. For example, when you log into online banking and you have a code that's generated, Microsoft use the exact same system, but for an app on your phone called Authenticator. You can use that Authenticator app directly with other suite, like Google Suite, for example, even though you don't link the Google Suite together with the Microsoft 365 suite. So it gives you extra security without having to fully embed them if you don't want to. The last section, automation. This is where you really generate benefit. And this is, I think, where people don't really appreciate what's available right now. When we talk about AI, that kind of stuff, people think it's really far-fetched and really far in advance. It's not anymore. It's available within 365 for free. It's available within other tools like Zapier and things like that. And this where, again, the steps you've highlighted, the pains you've highlighted in the first review step, you can take each one of these and you can automate it and reduce that human input time needed. We do this once a quarter, so it's going to be a big change to do everything all at once, but we actually take 2 or 3 processes that are time consuming and repetitive each quarter, and we automate them. And then throughout the year, we start making bigger gains because we're chipping away at all elements. So one of the main benefits you can get is literally freeing up time with AI and automation. Anything that's a repetitive task that is literally done over and over again by a person, a computer can do it far more efficiently. You can also use it to monitor software security and other processes. We use it within 365 to monitor when people might be being hacked and user accounts have been broken into. So for example, there's an AI system that would check where I'm logged in from. So if I'm logged in here in Leeds and somebody else tries to log in halfway around the world, the AI will trigger an alert because it knows that it's impossible for me to be in 2 places at once. And again, tools like Zapier and Power Automate are really good examples of how automation and AI can be used for pretty much any app and suite, and can be used virtually for free nowadays. So I'll put some links to Zapier and Powerflow at the end of this email for anybody who wants to look into them. But essentially, I can give you some examples of where we've used these sort of things in the past. I know we've got potentially someone that has a recruitment agency on the phone, on the call. So we've used this automation with a recruitment agency who handles large volumes of incoming CVs to automatically pick out the job ID or the job title that CV is been sent in for, and then automatically file that within a client's filing system against the right job. So instead of a person having to monitor an inbox and constantly been picking out CVs and pulling them into the relevant jobs, we've now got a Microsoft automation that checks that email as it comes in, finds the job they're applying for, and then assigns that email and CV to that correct job. So we've removed a whole layer of human error and the human wasted time by doing that. There's other areas that you could look at with that. I think we've got someone that does property lettings. Again, you could use automation for onboarding a new tenant. So when we're asking, if you've got a series of properties to let and you're asking a tenant to fill in some paperwork to sign up for that or apply for that property, you could use systems like Microsoft Forms that would present them with a web page. They would fill in their online application directly into the Microsoft system you're using. The system would then take that data and put it into your CRM. So you're not having them fill in a form and then you take it and type it up into your system, and you're saving the time there. There's other obviously benefits, and the limits are endless once you understand how you can make use of different systems. We also have, which is probably quite topical at the minute, there's a system in Microsoft 365 called My Analytics, and that works to help people with working patterns, and especially with mental health, which is probably quite important when people are working remotely. It will analyze the way staff work, and it will send them a daily or a weekly digest about how they could have saved time, how they might be collaborating with people too much unnecessarily, how they might be booking last minute meetings, and how much quiet time they've got to actually reflect or to work uninterrupted throughout the day. And it will help them first see the trends that they've already got, but then also go through and learn how they can be more efficient with their own time. And again, that's something completely free in Microsoft 365. It's there, the AI is learning all the time in the background because a lot of people already use it. It's just not turned on and enabled. Or people understand it's there and therefore they're not looking to use it. So as I kind of said, we literally, once you have been through this cycle and you've understood the benefits that can be gained, there's no reason that you can't keep repeating this and becoming more efficient, more efficient, more efficient. One of the ethos we share here at Everon is that we're all about continual improvement. So yeah, we might do something and improve a little bit, but then in 6 months' time, we can improve it again and again and again. And these slow improvements really add up over time. A few of the things that we do, I mentioned once a quarter, we review and we take 2 or 3 processes that are time we've spent a lot of time in, and not necessarily things we think are initially IT problems, but actually just a repetitive task that some human is doing, and we streamline it and automate it. We do that every quarter. We also have a quarterly cut day, and the idea of this is because over time you amass new subscriptions, new costs, you're constantly putting things in and changing them. Every quarter we sit down, we have a cut day, and we look at what we're using, where we're spending, and we pull out what's no longer needed, or we look at where we can replace 2 or 3 systems with something that's cheaper or more effective or more efficient, wherever it might be. And that helps us keep costs down as well. Obviously, you don't want to be making changes too frequently and too often, because it's hard to get staff to buy into change frequently, especially if it's big changes. But where you can streamline and just improve in smaller steps, you generally find staff will be more accommodating. And yeah, just throughout the year, we're always having these improvements that really add up over the course of 12 months. So kind of summary, for any of the changes you make and any of the strategy you want to implement should have one of these 4 benefits. So it should be saving you, your staff, or your company time. Automation and AI is a great way of doing that. It should be saving your money, so that might be through time you're saving, or it might be unused software or applications or even licenses. A lot of people have staff leave and never reduce the license numbers that they have on software, so you pay for stuff you don't need. It should, probably is a quite important one, remove frustrations. So where you're having constant problems, either staff aren't doing things, they're complaining, or you're just generally having to firefight issues, by having a more simple and streamlined system, you shouldn't be having these issues, and you're lowering the need for people like us as well for IT support. So again, you're saving costs there. And productivity. As you're making these small gradual improvements and you're streamlining process, you should be constantly saving time. And that time then can be reinvested however you want. If you want to work half days, you can do that, or you can get twice as much work done in the same amount of time. And ultimately that's going to lead back into the business being more profitable and you having an easy life as well. Obviously, there's quite a lot involved in some of the steps, so I'm happy to give free consultations and to look at your specific systems and then give you a tailored plan of how I think you can improve your strategy. I'll share these slides as well, or I'll ask Russell to share it, but there's a link there. You can book 30 minutes free with me. We can go through your current pains and issues, and then I'll provide you an obligation-free kind of first strategy where you can look at streamlining and implementing tools you might know about right now. Some of them will be the bits I've mentioned, the Zapiers, the Microsoft 365s. Others might be things we haven't quite mentioned here, but more applicable to your industry. So that's kind of it. Russell, if you want to, I don't know if you've got any questions.
Hey guys, coming back here. That was really great, Jamie. Thanks so much, because there's so much there that's useful information. I think for me, the anything when you mention security breaches is the worst thing. Makes me nervous. And when you said that statistics about if you haven't been this year, then maybe next year, then that's, you know, definitely scary.
Yeah, I think people think that it used to be big firms that were targeted. It never happened to me, but the reality is it's so easy for people to do it now that there are threats and the attacks that happen all the time, and it happens to anybody from a single one-man band business up to a multi-million-pound corporation, and the fines you get are in relation to your turnover, I think, 0%. So it can be quite hefty.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so for anyone, if they want to ask a question, Richard's actually asked a question already. He said, can I use Microsoft 365 to manage all my usernames and passwords for everything from Amazon to supplier portals, etc.?
So that Microsoft 365 won't work as a password manager across all those different sites and suites, but you can look at, we use 2 here. So one commonly used called Roboform. That will essentially add a little add-in to your browser, so your internet page, and whenever you save a new password, it'll prompt you to save it with a friendly name, and then when you come back to those sites, it'll automatically fill the passwords. There's another suite that works exactly the same called Keeper, and that again does the same thing. So those sort of things are perfect for managing passwords across different sites. They'll also let you use more strong passwords. So rather than use a password that humans can remember, like a pet name or something like that, the tools that I just mentioned will generate random passwords that'll just be a mix of random characters and letters and numbers. And because you don't need to remember them, it doesn't matter how long they are. So you generally end up with a more secure password, and it's all managed by that software suite.
That's perfect. Yeah, no, great. Rich said, look at those. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. So what we're going to do, well, Jamie and everyone, is we're going to, we've recorded this presentation. So we're going to email around a link to everybody who's on our contact base. So that's everyone who's in this meeting, but also we're going to email it to everyone else who couldn't make the meeting as well. so everyone gets the information. And just remind me, Jamie, the link to book in a session with you.
So it's everon.co.uk/chat-with-Jamie, and that'll take you to a page where you can in real time book I can put it in the chat as well probably, where you can book a time with me.
We'll put that link in our email as well.
Yeah.
So it's there. Yeah, brilliant. Well, thanks so much for coming over to do the presentation today.
No problem, my pleasure.
Really, really useful. I've learned quite a bit. That's helpful to me for me and my business. I'm sure people have learned a lot on the session as well, and I'm sure if we send it out, you might be inundated with questions. So
that's not a problem. We've obviously got plenty of free time at the minute. So
yeah, brilliant. No worries. Okay, great. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, cheers for coming on, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you.
Then bye.